everybody? Happy Tuesday morning to you. Coffee cheers, tea cheers, whatever you drink in the morning to get you going. Cheers. It's interesting because I look at the world, I look at how it play out, I look at all the patterns and all the moving parts and the people and stuff. And, I love YouTube, even though I don't love YouTube because I think that this platform doesn't really protect its creators, um, or it protects a certain segment of creators. And typically, these creators are the ones who are the most vocal about the most hateful, ridiculous, and debauched things. They get the most love on these platforms because this is Satan's world. And honestly, like anything objective and wholesome, obviously that's going to get pressed down into the algorithms because they want people psychologically manipulated into being anti God, right? And even if you are a believer in some kind of God or deity, right? These systems want you to be against it, rebelling against it, right? And when you think about rebelling against God, it comes in so many different forms, right? And, before I talk about that though, right, the whole purpose of this video and what inspired this video is that I just saw this, I was catching this video that Abba and Preach just posted about an hour ago, and it says, Sneeko, the blind shepherd. And Ava and Preach are talking about the streamer Sneeko. And I don't know much about these people at all because I don't care about these people in the broad scheme of things. They're just talking heads to me. And I like to listen to certain people just to understand what kind of thinking is out there in America in general. So, to me, when you go into entertaining these thought tanks with intention, it definitely helps you to protect your own mind because you absolutely know why you're looking at certain things. Like I go into, looking at any of the content from these people with straight intent. I want to know what people like you are saying, how people like you think, characters like you think, right? And if, and kind of see overall, if you are a person that I feel like is, trustworthy, credible, right? But off of that, I think some of the most uncredible streamers, influencers on the internet today are these ethnic people who have somehow, obviously with the Trump train, and you talk about MAGA, right? The MAGA movement, right? The MAGA movement has created a bunch of other sub movements, if you think of, and a lot of sub, groups trying to infuse their ideological thinking into this big MAGA movement, right? They're attached to Trump. And like I said, Trump's base is ultimately going to be his detriment, right? Because they can screw him over more ways than one before he can even screw himself over. Because you have these passionately ignorant people, some of them, not all of them, who will be getting on the mic talking about divisive things that actually are cancerous to America, doesn't help American progress, and it only talks on, the supremacy of a certain type of group, right? And there's supremacist groups of all colors, if you will, in America. Like when I think about supremacy, I don't just think about white people. I think about ideological supremacy and bandwagon, certain bandwagons of ignorance, right? Those can be forms of supremacy, right? Supremacy of religion is another thing that we see in America today. Supremacy comes in so many different forms. Struggle supremacy, right? So America is riddled with many little subtle forms of supremacy, whether people want to concede to that or not. This nation has not progressed. It has not gotten better. If anything, somebody has literally took the past and threw it up into the present. So now we are more divided than ever, right? and you have all of these people on the mic who are trying to be talking heads to the American population, and these people are spewing all kinds of recycled, hateful rhetoric, right? And it doesn't help that individuals from other groups can co-sign these spiteful, hateful, stereotypical rhetoric of certain groups, right? So I've noticed, right, in the age of social conservative movements and democratic movement, the conservative movement has really gone to this 1960s s way of thinking. And if it were just the older people, I wouldn't really think too much about it because I'm like, they're going to die soon, anyways. Who cares? Right? But it is this newer generation of conservative people who are cleaving on to idealisms of white supremacy. And that type of ideology has always been a cancer to America. It will always be a malignant cancer to America. And what is really interesting is that these people in these thought camps, they have some level of religious supremacy too. They will literally talk about God, faith, and family, and then they will talk about these supremacist talking points, and they will jump on the bandwagon of narration generally about any type of group, right? Specifically Black Americans, right? And some of these, people who are in these white supremacist, you know, thought tanks, they are so committed to ignorance that they will discredit their own personal opinion and experience with Black people just so that they can feel safe in these hubs of white supremacy. And so we've seen this with Candace Owens, right? We've seen this with Myron Gaines, and we've seen this with people like Cinco, these popular conservative talking heads. We've seen this with Andrew Tate. These people are going to get a wake up call, and a lot of them are getting their wake up calls. They have elevated themselves above Black people in many different ways, but not even just about Black people, right? You have people, some of these people are very ambiguous. Minus Candace Owens, right? You have Andrew Tate, who has a Black father, white mother, right? Sneeko, he has like Haitian descent, looks like may have some Asian descent. This dude is basically of the POC group descent people. And then you have Nick Fuentes, who is a freaking Mexican, talking on white supremacy, talking points, gravitating to white thought tanks because they need to feel safe. They need to feel safe in something. But what they don't realize is that a lot of white Americans don't feel safe. They don't feel safe. And how are you going to feel safe against a small segment of white Americans? Because that's basically what the white supremacists are. That's why they're so pissed, right? Because they're a small faction of America who's holding on to this idealism of wanting their country back. An idea that the white man built America. It's like, no, you didn't. Your lazy ass have to go get other people to do it. You were sitting on somewhere doing nothing, right? So, like, keep it real. White people didn't build anything in this country. This country truly was built by the hands. I don't think of a builder as somebody that's sitting up there whipping slaves telling them to do stuff. You didn't build anything. You have the privilege of delegation. And the biggest shame that some of these white supremacists should feel is that your people were that damn lazy that you couldn't build your own damn country after you imperialized it from a people that was already here. Your arguments are so moot in modern America. You are a cancer. You are a cancer. White supremacists are cancers. And when you really think about what white looking people have built, even over the millenniums. It has been built on the backs of people who have died. I don't look at the Colosseum in Rome. I don't look at any of that architecture in Rome. I don't look at it in awe when I think about the fact that these people didn't even have the construction tools to do that. People died. People risked it wasn't even about risk, and they were forced to risk their lives to build these architectures of Rome that a lot of people want to go and visit and be in awe about. That those are blood buildings to glorify people who were very violent. The Romans were not graceful people. You wouldn't even consider them people of God. But yet Satan permeates white supremacy. Any type of supremacy, whether it's white, black, Asian, whatever, supremacy is a root of Satan. You cannot be of God if you have supremacist mindset, right? And some of these people have the audacity to say that they are people of God. And let me remind you of what the fruitage of the Spirit is, right? You people of God who are on the train of supremacy. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That's Galatians 5:22 and 23 for you fake Christians who don't really know your Bible. You people are Satanists at your very core. You are Nicolaitans. And if you know about the Nicolaitans in the Bible, Brother John, in the Revelations, he wrote 7 letters to 7 congregations. He gave them admonition. I love that you guys are doing this, but you guys have a problem. And one of those congregations had a problem with the prosperity Christian mindset, which is overt money worship. And these are the people talking about God, faith, and family. Your God is Satan. Your God is Satan. So looking at Abba and preaching, they're just clowning Sneeko now because he's getting his Haitian wake up call. Right? He forgot that he was Haitian. He literally disowned all of his background, his people, right? And now he's getting his wake up call.
The United States of America is a white country. It was built by white people. It was created by white people. See? See what I'm saying?
This is Auburn Preach.
Bro, I hope he just has like multiple personality disorders and he's got a problem.
He's gone full blue pill. He's so based, then we start shitting on Haitians and it's
okay,
like...
now this is his fellow white supremacist sympathizer, Nick Fuentes, Mexican Nick Fuentes, right? Talking about Sneeko, right? He's like, he's all mad and upset and he's going blue pill. Now they're trying to cancel him from the red pill space, throw him over to the blue pill space because he's defending his heritage. He's defending his people, right? Right? Sneeko, and this happened on the Fresh and Fit show too. I see clips. They have a Haitian producer, right? And they're just going in on Haitian people, right? And that dude had to just sit there and just, take it because he had no balls. That was not a real man. That was not a real man, right? These people will go after Haitians like that all day. And you see the difference between foundational Black Americans and these Black looking immigrants because he sat there and let Myron diss his people. This is what these people are willing to do for coins. Right, he sat there and let Myron diss his own people with very. He was working his, but you weren't taking up for your people, my dog. You let Myron and all of those other ignorant people go in on Haitian people. You're not loyal or you're weak, right? So here Nick Fuentes is clowning Sneeko, right? Because now Sneeko is in his feelings because it's okay when they are clowning Black people. It is okay when these people are going in generalizing black people, right? But the minute you start talking about their people, right? Then all of a sudden they gotta kind of push back. I mean, guys, I mean, right? Because so Sneeko was getting his wake up call, and these white supremacists are telling them, if you're on our side, you don't have no people. We are your people. Don't go on a mic defending anybody, right? Because they're not your people anymore. So you're not Haitian or whatever you think you are, Sneeko, as long as you're in this camp. And that we can talk however we want about your people, and you are not allowed to push back. Right? So Sneeko is getting his wake up call.
Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're a white supremacist.
I went to Haiti 2 months ago, didn't eat a cat. So from firsthand experience, no cats.
Haiti's not so bad. Well, why don't you go live there, bro?
So here go Nick for Win says, well, Nick, why don't you go and live in Mexico? I mean, I just, these people got the weirdest arguments. Like, I mean, these Clayton Bigsby type of people in the white supremacist thought tanks, right? They are just perplexing to me. Like, I do really want to know what real white supremacists, well, we know what real white supremacists think about them. They gonna clown them, dog them all damn day, right? But they're still going to get on the mic and act like a confident white supremacist, like they don't make sense to the white supremacist movement. Like, why don't you go back to Mexico, Nick? Or
why don't you go bring Islam to Haiti? You can go be a jihadist in Haiti. Yeah, except they can't read and they eat mud.
see, this is how these people think of these other people who jump into their white supremacist thought tank. And it never fails that they get their wake up call. Now, Sneeko was on the mic trying to defend Haitian people and their practices and all that good jazz. It's like, look, bro, you are getting a wake up call. What you have decided to do to black people universally without any type of pragmatism, you wanted to troll us. And like I said, do not troll foundational black Americans, because you're going to get your wake up call. It's never going to go well for people who make an executive decision to go against black people. It's never going to go well for you long term. And so we see this. We see Sneeko getting his wake up call, his friends, his buddies that he done cleaved on to. Now they're clowning him.
Fucking based. Now they eat dirt and they swim in an open
He's talking
sewer.
cast
It is what it is.
crap
I'm
about
not white. I live
Sneeko's
here.
people.
I know I'm never really gonna, but that's the truth. Stop sucking Hitler off.
Now Sneeko is getting some he's upset, right? And so he's going after these white supremacists, and he's saying the opposite of everything that he was saying in their favor to get on their team. Now he's saying the opposite, right? It's crazy to me. It's crazy. Sneeko, I will tell you, if like, I don't have a big channel, so don't nobody be looking at this like that. But I will say, if this dude catches a clip of this, I mean, I would tell you, out of all the conservative influencers, you are obnoxious, but you have some small level of humility in you. If Islam is your faith, you need to find the most convicted Islamic leader, older gentleman, who is all the way together, cleave onto him, get some guidance from this person, right? And abandon these ridiculous things that you're doing, right? And a lot of these dudes are over 20. These dudes are almost 30. And for some reason, somebody had let these people think that 20s is a teenager, and you can just operate like a teenager, say whatever you want to say like a teen. My teenagers in my house can't say whatever they want to say or whatever like that, because again, I'm old school. You gonna mind your tongue. But these people have not been trained by their parents to mind their tongue. So they're out here jumping on any bandwagon of ignorance, saying any old thing they want to say about any group of people. And now they're getting the backlash, right? He's getting the backlash. Your white supremacist sympathizer, you right on the train of Candace Owens' fall from disgrace, where you jumped on the bandwagon of ignorance narrating people certain ways, and now you looking like an idiot, a scrambling idiot. And that's what a lot of these people are. You look at the Fresh and Fit podcast, they look like scrambling idiots. They have zero conviction about anything. They are literally just leeching onto whatever stick. They are jumping into whatever thought tank they can to figure out what will stick. And I think the saddest case of these Clayton Bigsbys is Myron Gaines from the Fresh and Fit podcast. Like, Myron Gaines is the saddest Clayton Bigsby I have ever seen. You can't be selling your soul out that desperately that you will sit there and let these people dog you. They literally dog you, call you the N word, let you know that you're not like one of them. You're not like us. Even the white folks are saying, not like us. The white supremacists are saying, they not like us. They not like us in a country tone or whatever music they listen to, because you're not like them. You are a Sudanese immigrant. You've come from a country, you fled your country, right? One thing you can say about Black America is we didn't fled, we didn't flee. We've been dealing and seeing our oppressors eye to eye for centuries. Generation after generation, we have learned to empower ourselves with our oppressors, right? They are open to people like you coming over because they can't flex on they can't flex on us like they can flex on you, Myron. You are a leverageable asset at best, right? And you out here talking about Black Americans, right? But then you want to say we're all Black, right? I mean, pick a struggle, bro. You double talking demon. That's what these people are. They're double talking demons, right? Pick a struggle. You're a double talking demon. Right? We're not all Black if you can fix yourself on your platform to demonize Black Americans and generalize Black Americans, in this negative and ignorant way. Meanwhile, Sudan, your IQ levels are lower than Black Americans. So make more sense, bro, all the way. But it's just interesting to me to kind of see how some of these bandwagon influencers on the conservative thought tank are literally falling from grace. Their white supremacist, masters are really giving them their wake up call. Like, don't get too comfortable, right? You're a leverageable asset. Your job is to talk about Black people and other groups that are not us in a very generalized negative way. Anything outside of that, you keep your mouth shut. And by the way, we can talk however we want about your people, right? I mean, this is Nick Fuentes. Like, Sneeko has done stuff with Nick Fuentes, right? Like this, like you're talking about, these two people have collaborated at some
Why
point.
don't you go live there, bro?
Right, and this is how Nick is now talking to Sneeko. Right? Because Sneeko was fine as long as he was saying that white people have built America, white people have done this. As long as he was on the balls of white people, he was fine. But the minute he started to defend his own people from the rhetoric that was coming from that space, he got the business. The conservative movement has become embarrassing. Speaking as someone who is conservative, it was funny in 2020. Obviously I was always around the liberal disposition my life. So I think, 2020, it afforded me an opportunity to just entertain the Republican side of the argument. And I think like seeing all these thought tanks, I saw the Brexit movement. I saw, Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum, Greg Foreman. These are faces that look like mine. So it was like, let me see how they're talking, right? And so the one thing about all of these thought tanks is that you're always going to find a truthful point, right? But within these truths and facts that these people spout off is also a poor intent and a purpose to narrate individuals and group in a manner that perpetuates negative stereotypes about people and groups in America. And I realized that I'm like, We have progressed too far for people to be maintaining these idealisms of thought. But I realize this is MK Ultra. These people can be paid to maintain these projections and ideas of black people or any other group of people. So if you got a rural white person, right, and they've never been around black people ever in their life, all they've had was other rural white people around them, right? And the only interaction that they have with black people is looking at a Candace Owens podcast or looking at how black people are projected in the mainstream, right? I wouldn't have a positive view or perspective about black people either, right? It's not until you go out and actually have a human experience outside of this matrix that everybody's in that you realize that many of these arguments and these generalizations and these stereotypes, they're fallacious. They are riddled with fallacies because they're not general rules, right? There's always exception to any ideological thought, and those should always be considered. And when you're talking about black people, when you think about the overall narration of black people, most of these people are getting their projections from the poverty line. And those mindsets and behaviors are different. I mean, and you can even see it. Just take white America, for example. White America, right? You break white America down into economic classes. Let's just forget that we got all the white people. We're breaking these white folks down into different economic classes. I guarantee you the thoughts and the behaviors of those white people are going to be drastically different. They're not going to be the same. Poverty line white people do not behave the same way as middle class white people. Middle class white people may be akin, but not quite to your higher net worth white people. You're talking about people who are operating psychologically, behaviorally in different environments. And a lot of that is due to their economic situation. It's the same thing with black people. Poverty line black people don't operate nor think the same way as middle class blacks. There's a lot more civility there. And it gets even more civilized when you go into the higher economic classes. But what these media pundits and all these little weirdos and ignorant folks like to do is they like to take projections of poverty line blacks and they want to blanket it across all of black America. And people who buy into ideas of supremacy, they just eating it up like popcorn because it's validating some aspect of them. And most people who buy ideas of supremacy, when you peel back the layers of that person, that particular individual, you're going to notice a lot of things about supremacist minded people. Number one, they are truly unattractive. More times than not, supremacist minded people, no matter what color they are unattractive, right? They are not the sharpest tools in the shed, right? They can't create anything that's meaningful to the market that it would want repetitively, right? They can't play sports. They don't even have good characters or dynamic personalities. These people need supremacy as a validator to everything else about them that is a loser and not supreme, even when it's compared to the people that they hate. So when you examine people in America from a social and psychological perspective, truly, you realize that people are being projected ideas about other people that is just not true for the whole group. And when you're saying that X, Y, and Z group is not a monolith, break down what that means, right? Because that means that they're not going to have the same voice. Poverty line whites, poverty line blacks are not going to have the same voices as the fading middle class because they've been doing and operating different ways. They've been experiencing different standards of living. You know what I mean? And poverty line is a whole segment of America that needs to be studied by itself, because when you do kind of at least try to observe poverty line Americans, you will see cycles of negative, bad behaviors that actually ensures that they maintain their poverty line state. They're being so, like, what do you think Sexy Red is all about? Sexy Red is all about making sure that young black women stay in a poverty line mindset by buying into poverty line behaviors, which are reckless. There's scarcity in their, in at their core, right? Because at this point, people are just acting on satisfaction, right? My life sucks, right? So I just need to be satisfied. And there's nothing more satisfying than sex and drugs. And if you got a thrill for killing people, for these driller guys, that. I mean, there's so much to say about the psychology of these groups, but a lot of people don't have the true intelligence and pragmatism to really step back and examine these groups in a way that doesn't inflame stereotypes, but lends understanding. And this is why these Clayton Bigsby looking folks on the mic, right? They are talking to inflame these people. Most of these influencers, their job is to inflame you, and they will mask it, guise it under informing you, but the whole intent of these people is to inflame your senses. That's what they're trying to do. And I feel like people need to be realistic about this MK Ultra business and how it plays out in colorful ways through these demonic double talking demon influencers, right? But the minute they start detracting, they get their wake up call, right? They
Why
get
don't you go
turned
bring
on.
Islam to Haiti?
These guys
You
work
can go
together.
be a jihadist in Haiti.
I wonder
Yeah.
would Nick Fuentes say this to Sneeko's face? See, these beta people, they have a platform to talk cash, whatever, about any group of people, but they wouldn't say it in anybody's face because Nick Fuentes is a beta male. He's a beta male. He's divorced from reality. And for some reason, he thinks that being a Mexican, sympathizing with extreme white supremacy. And when I say white supremacy, please, white folks, because there's some white folks that just trigger. As soon as you say white folks or white supremacy, it's just like the Jews. It's like, oh my God, is it something negative? It's like, no, but that is what you are, and we are addressing you, right? So when I say white supremacy, if you know you're not a white supremacist, do not internalize, those words to you, because I don't believe that all white people are supremacists. And I've said that several times, right? But you always have that passionately ignorant person that just hear the word white people come out of a black person's mouth and automatically think that it is a black person saying something negative about black or white people. And it's like, no, I'm calling out observations of your group that may not only impact my group, but it impacts the image of your group. White people, they have disserviced themselves by allowing these types of white people to dominate the voice because many of them are going along to get along. They don't want to be problematic, right? And sometimes, in order to have a functional society, you have to have tolerance levels. And even within your community or group, you need to have tolerance level. So if you're one of those white people that you're like, no, we're all Americans, we all just need to function. And especially if you're a person of faith and you're like, these are my brothers, these are my sisters, no matter what color they are, you should be the one rebuking these white people for permeating these ideas, especially if you've had experience with these other color groups that makes those statements that these people are saying, not true. More times than not, people, if they just unplug and disconnect, they are coexisting without any issue. But the minute the media, the political cycle, they need to get a rise out of people. The first thing they do is divide people, and they use these talking head people. And when they're done with them, right, they just kind of leave them to their own devices to fall. And this is kind of what you're seeing with Sneeko, right? This is what you see with Sneeko, unfortunately, you know? And like I said, of all the talking heads on the conservative think tank side, I will say that Sneeko has the best chance of just getting himself a little bit more together when it comes to becoming I don't feel like Sneeko is a terrible person. I think that Sneeko is a beta person. He's a bit. I think Candace Owens is a terrible person. I think Nick Fuentes is a terrible person. I think Myron Gaines. These are terrible people, right? But I don't like. I read the characters of people, and I read their projections, and I just see a beta male in Sneeko who wants to be a part of something, right? And and unfortunately, Sneeko obviously do not have a lot of personal meaning and conviction, and so he's just being a part of anything so that he can get some level of visibility. So, I'm not gonna bash Sneeko. I know, in this Abba and Preach video, Sneeko, the blind shepherd, right? They are giving him his lashings. They're giving him his lashings, right? I'm, taking the feminine approach here, and I'm just going to give you a little love, Sneeko, and hopefully you have learned your lesson from fixing your lips to just go in and troll black people, because I don't care who you are, right? If it is your business to troll other groups of people, it's not a long-term strategy that's ever gonna it's never going to be a long-term strategy. It's always going to be a short-term strategy with short-term gains, but the fall from grace is going to be even worse because nobody's going to want to work with you. Nobody's going to want to work with you. Nobody's going to trust you because you are a chameleon and you will leech onto anything just to be popular instead of being a person who operates with firm conviction. So I pray for everybody, especially some of these so-called people of faith. And I just want to remind you guys, Galatians 5:22 and 23, it says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. So a lot of you so-called people of faith and some of these extremist thought tanks, you are marking yourself for destruction. You have the mark of the wild beast in your heart, in your hands, and in your head. Because you are manifesting the mark of the wild beast when you can get on the internet and demonize whole groups of people in generally. You are not a person of God. You belong to Satan, right? You do not have the fruitage of the Spirit. You are operating with the 7 deadly sins. And people need to know the difference between those spirits. There is the Holy Spirit, which these are characteristics of it in Galatians 5:22 and 23. And there's the 7 deadly sins or the satanic spirits. And so many people are operating with the satanic spirit, guys, crossed with God. I'm telling you, these people, there's a cross. Why do you think voodoo Haitians, and this is another thing, Sneeko, right? Because you want to keep saying Haitians are Catholics. Of course they're Catholics, right? There are a lot of satanic practices that rely on Catholicism and the use of the cross. You ask any demonologist, you ask any exorcist type people, and they will tell you that it is impossible for you to even connect with those types of spirits without some form of belief in God. And you have to believe in God, because the fact that you're tapping into them is an act of rebellion against God. So they need you believing in God, right? They need you having some idea of God's protection, right? Because their mission is to take that away from you, because you are crossing over into their realm. So Haiti is always going to be what it is as long as they have those wicked practices in their land. You cannot cross Catholicism with Satanism and think that it's going to work out for you. And even if you have a short term type of gain with that, you understand it's never going to work out for you. You look at Haiti and you understand what Satan does to whole, what is that? Is it a country? You know, yeah, country, I guess. But you see what Satan can do to a country when you have these wicked practices. And that's why I said they're bringing these people over here. You know what I mean? And they're disguising themselves as Catholics. But a lot of these are voodoo practicing Catholics. They're bringing their wickedness to the United States of America. And my whole thing is, if the devil was a refugee, you think we should let him and his kids in? And I'm not saying that these people are devil people, but they need their souls cleansed. They need to cleanse themselves of those demonic spirits, because they're going to bring these little practices over here. And America is already operating on high demonized energy. Nothing about America says that this is not a demonized nation and that this nation is not operating on full demonism. So I don't understand why we are allowing these individuals from spiritistic places, because even these people south of the border, some of them practice Santeria, which is also another Catholic infused satanic faith or idealism. They need the cross. They need the cross. So, and it's so interesting, because when I was thinking about all these little side chick little religions and faith, I'm like, it's kind of queer that they need Catholicism and the cross in their practices. Don't nobody think that's weird? So Candace, while you going in on the Jews, you need, and calling them all kinds of things and Satanists and stuff, you need to look at your own people that you just converted to. Because no religion on this earth is pure. Most of them are riddled with satanic practices and idealisms. So, anyways, we'll pray for you, Brother Sneeko. We will pray for you, right? But, obviously, this is a wake up call for you. And I think that, I think you'll be okay. But you need to find something else to do outside of talking about Black Americans, because again, karma is karma. What did Lil Wayne said? Karma is a bitch. Just make sure that bitch is beautiful. And unfortunately, a lot of these white supremacists, they're not beautiful, right? They're leveraging you to talk crap about other groups. They're making other white people look bad. And the minute you deviate from what they want you to say, they're going to give you the business like they're giving you right now. So for your next class of Clayton Bigsby type people, the thing that I would tell you to do is learn from Candace Owens, learn from Myron Gaines, learn from Sneeko, learn from, what is that guy named Donovan Sharp? I didn't even follow that dude. I just keep hearing about him in this conservative thought group, Fall from Grace, Disgrace, right? These disgraceful people that have infiltrated real conservatism in America. They have infiltrated it, right? And they are falling. They are falling, falling, falling. And we love to see it. We really do. All right, you guys, you have a wonderful day. Thank you for those who have tuned in. If you like pragmatic conversations like this, hit that like and subscribe button. I am always being censored on YouTube and across platforms because they want y'all inflamed. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you a practical approach. I do hand out my little rebukings and my lashings, right? But it's only for the betterment of people. Anything that I say to people is going to be out of love. Brother Sneeko, I'm not a Muslim, but I pray for you because out of all of these demonic spirited people, Sneeko has the most humility in him for correction. Sneeko has the best probability of true guidance to become a better man. You know what I mean? Sneeko actually has the ingredients to be a bigger man than he's shown himself. Myron Gaines tried to pretend like he's a man, right? But there's nothing humble about him, right? And what makes a real man is a man that can have the character that is outlined in Galatians 5:22 and 23. Love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, but the most important thing is self-control, right? I feel like Sneeko is in this self-examination mode where he's kind of checking himself, and he should just take the rebukings and the clownings of other people, but you need to sit on that and be a better man. All right? So you guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.